Black excellence is great. But Essence, you've been in the industry for over 20 years. Yeah. So you've seen it evolve. You've seen it go down.
It's very cyclical. I mean, when I first started, there was The Cosby Show, there was Different World, there were these kind of avenues for people to start and get their feet wet and be able to be a part of the community. And then we kind of had like a dry season, and then we had a revival. And what I'm encouraged by is that I feel like we are no longer a renaissance.
Yes.
I feel like this is now the way that it is. We are a staple. Part of what really, for me, solidified that was the success of Black Panther. Just showing from an international standpoint that we are just as viable and that we are just as marketable as our other peers, our white peers. So that was, like, to me, a big glass ceiling shatterer in terms of changing the game. But you're right, people like Issa Rae and Ava and Roger, like, they're doing incredible things, and Oprah as well as a producer, she's just done amazing things. Kerry Washington is getting into the producer game. With all of the platforms now, I think the opportunities are wide open. But that being said, there is still a ceiling. There is still an umbrella. There is still what happens a lot of times is that we are kind of taken for granted. Our productions, in terms of what's allotted monetarily, is much smaller. Our budgets are smaller. We're allocated and marginalized still because the people in positions of power don't look like us, and they don't necessarily think that they're going to relate to our stories. And again, one of the encouraging parts about the success of Black Panther is that it kind of shatters that myth. Like, if you build it, they will come. If you tell a great story, they're going to come. Like, we can no longer, the algorithms that worked for you in 2000 whatever don't work anymore. What we see is that great stories and great acting and great casts create audiences, period. The audience will come and watch, and it's not relegated to a Black audience or a female Black audience or this kind of audience. I think one of the things that really, to me, was such a great change and really demonstrated that in terms of industry opportunity was the show Walking Dead. The Walking Dead, at the time that it came on the air and started being everywhere, was the #1 show on television, period. And it was a cast full of unknowns, no star power, and it was a multi-diverse cast, different ages, different sexes, different. And I love that about it. And I feel like it just kind of said, just tell a great story. Don't try to figure out what is going to make people watch. If you really focus on story and storytelling and empowering the people who are in it and giving them the push and the platform, you're going to get the viewership, period.
Oh, I agree. And when you think about Insecure and people that are going out and creating their own stories and telling their truth, people want to see us, and people want to hear our stories. They want to see our point of view. You know, there has to be an Insecure in a Girls. Those two worlds can exist, and we can watch all of it at the same time. And we can blend. We can have a Sex in the City, and Carrie can be Black, and all of it. It doesn't have to be so separate,
so segregated,
and so segregated. No,
my world isn't segregated. I grew up in New York. Her world isn't as well. I mean, we have friends and people in our lives and family members. Some of us that come from a varied existence. So I'm always frustrated by the kind of myopic lens that Hollywood pretends that the world has, that I don't agree. Yeah. I don't agree. When I travel abroad, I just see a very diverse and welcoming environment. Like, it's about like-mindedness. It's about same philosophies. It's no longer, in my world, it's no longer about just skin color.
Well, now I think it's awesome because we're becoming the people behind the scenes.
Yes.
You know, ABC execs, presidents, you know who made that phone call.
Yes.
Okay? Roseanne Barr, that Black woman did that. So I think more times and the more steps that we're making towards being more behind the camera and being in those boardrooms and making those shifts, it's getting people to think differently and see us differently. So in that case, Black Hollywood is changing. It's not just becoming Black Hollywood, it's becoming a real universal Hollywood, and I'm excited.
Yeah, inclusion is exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's misogyny, but then there's also like a certain amount of I'm grateful that I've been able to listen and hone my instincts to know that there's, it's a stranger danger. That I get those hairs on the back of my neck, and I'm like, this is not the place for me.
You feel that energy. He getting a little too close.
Yeah.
Back up. Spice.
But there is something that we have to always be weary of, and is that a lot of decisions that are made that'll put you in the driver's seat are made based on relationships, personal relationships, and it's very precarious as a woman to try and navigate those waters. Guys, you guys go out, you go play golf, you go hang out, you have a drink at the bar, nothing is thought of it, you make friendships, you exchange numbers, and it's about business, and everybody understands that. But when you're an attractive woman, it can somehow put you in it, and it's like, no, I'm trying to do business too, I'm trying to get to know you, and vice versa. But it will be precarious because there's always the assumption that it's about sex. Mm-hmm. And so you walk a very fine line. You're trying to kind of do what men do in terms of create opportunities for yourself. But there's a presumption made when you make those spaces for yourself that it's about trying to hit, and
it's not about that.
It's not about that.
But I think the more, like I said, women are empowered right now. I feel like because things are shifting and the Harry Weinsteins are being moved out, women are being called forward, and they do their jobs just as well, or even better, and so that stigma is getting taken away, and I don't think that this had to happen for women to get in those places of power and influence and power. So women can come forth and we can have those conversations. Girl, let's have a cocktail.
Go to the bar.
We can go to the bar. We can play golf.
Yes.
We can play tennis. And I'm going to wear pants when I'm with a man, too. And a bra. Because I see them women that come out there and I'm like, girl, you know damn right. You might come out here for no ball. And that short ass skirt. Girl, please.
So what's the golden rule? And then we'll close it out. The golden rule in regards to, because you guys are in close proximity with people of the opposite sex, right? Mm-hmm. Do you not only date outside of your industry exclusively, or does it make it a gray area if you guys try to date anybody within your industry?
I think it's definitely a gray area when you date within the industry because it's such a small group of people.
It's like high school.
Yeah, it's really incestuous. Yes. So you really want to be careful about dating, but at the same time, you get how it happens because there is this kind of intimacy that is that you're often thrust into. It's like you could be on your second day on a set of a movie and it's like, okay, now you're doing your love scene and you're like, okay.
Here are my boobs.
It's so awkward and weird, but at the same time, you spend so much time together. You're thrust in close quarters, sometimes literally, and it creates an environment that fosters intimacy. It really does. So it's just important, whatever your relationship is, that you guys discuss what your boundaries are, that I always have the boundary talk when I go to work, and I talk to my co-star about what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, just so that's out there on the table before we even start. And just be clear, if you're in a relationship, then make it known, make it plain. Don't give anybody any room to misinterpret your behavior. When they say action, it's action. When they say cut, it's cut.
How's the kids?